Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make these Wirework Christmas wreath earrings, and this is what they look like. So I've attached these to my earring findings, and it's a nice little perfect size for earrings. But obviously you can use this same technique to make just decorations as well, Christmas decorations. So that's really up to you, but using a few different coloured wires and then turning it into look like a wreath. And then you can use it for either earrings or whatever else you want. And perfect for Christmas obviously. So if you want to learn how to make them, then stay tuned. Now these are the things that we're going to need. Now first off we'll need a wire, and in this case I'm working with two different gauges. The first one being a 1mm, and this is just both of them a regular round wire, and the 1mm is going to be kind of the frame and the strength of the piece. So it's going to be inside the coils we're going to be making. But then also I'm using a 0.5 in this green colour, and this is going to then obviously signify the wreath, hence the green colour. Now this is actually a really nice wire and it's got a beautiful green colour. So if you're interested in this specific wire, I'll put a link in the description box to where you can get it. So it's for anyone who's interested. And then also, what I'll be using, this up here is a 1mm satin cord. And this is just what we're going to do a little embellishment with at the end. So you can use other types for this. This is just a 1mm satin cord. And then as the extra embellishment as well, I'm also going to be using some little seed beads here, and these are just a red colour. And obviously you can choose whatever you want to use, and colour wise as well, you can mix it up and use multiple colours in the piece. And then also I've just got some earring findings here that I'm going to attach my earrings to, and some jump rings. And then you'll obviously need a selection of some basic pliers as well. And the final thing that I'm going to use is this, it's called a gizmo tool, and this is just the pack it comes in. I'll show you in a bit what it looks like and how to use it. And this is not an essential, you can do this by hand, but using a gizmo tool like this is just a lot quicker and easier to work with. And it's going to be handy for doing obviously coiling and gizmo work in the future as well. So if you're interested in this, I'll also put a link in the description box to where you can purchase this tool. But otherwise, let's get all the materials together and then let's get started. So here is the gizmo that I'm using, and this is the device, how it looks, and I've already attached it to my table so it's nice and stable and ready for me to work with. So like I mentioned, you get all these rods that lie here behind the actual gizmo, and what you have is you have the 5 different sizes, and these are the ones that come with that deluxe one. And the one I'm going to be using is the second smallest one, and the thickness of this, or diameter, is roughly about 1mm. So that's the rod that I'm going to be using to make my first gizmo. So what I'm going to do is get that rod out that I mentioned, so the second smallest one, about 1mm diameter, and then before we start coiling we need to attach a wire to this. So you also want to get your wire, and you can just leave this on the reel, you don't have to cut anything off. And we just want to then, at this end where you have kind of the handle, you just want to wrap it around here just a couple of times to fasten it. Just like so. And then now we need to place it inside the gizmo so we can start coiling. So this will fit into the smallest hole on the bottom. You'll have different size holes on your gizmo here, depending what rod you use. And then all you do is use this handle to then start coiling. Like this. And then what I recommend is you kind of hold your wire, you want to give a little bit of tension on it, and then hold it downward like this and a little bit to the side, so that way you get a really nice and even coil, and you just keep going like this, and the more used to you get to it, the quicker you can go. You could quite easily do this by hand as well, but having the gizmo makes it really easier and quicker really to do this kind of work. So if you like doing coils and doing gizmo work, it's a really handy tool to have. So you just want to keep going until you filled up the full length of the rod with a coil. So you want to keep going like this, and just a little note, you want to still keep an eye on what you're doing, because you can risk when you're coiling kind of coming back on top of the coil by accident. It's no big deal, you just uncoil that bit again back to where it's nice and neat, because you want to avoid your wire crossing over, and then go back to continuing. Like so. And then along the way as well, you want to just push it in every now and then against your gizmo to make sure your coils are nice and tight. So I'm now getting towards the end of the rod on this side. As you can see, there isn't much left. But what we need is to continue the coil all the way to the end of the rod. So obviously now it's come through the second hole there. You won't really be able to use this anymore. So all we do is just take it off, and then we just want to coil the rest of the rod just by hand, and that won't take so long. So just continue coiling all the way to right at the end of the rod. So I've now kept coiling by hand the rest of the rod, and I have my coils going all the way to the end of that rod. And now what we can do is cut off the excess. So I'm just going to get my wire cutters or flush cutters and just go in and cut off that tail. And then as you can see, we still have the rest of the wire that we just cut off. It's still attached to the reel. So really, by doing it this way, there is very little wastage. The only wastage really is the little bit we wrapped around at the other end. But now we can release the whole thing from the rod and then start using this coil. So you just do that by undoing the wraps you did right at the beginning to secure it. And then you can pull it off of the rod. And then here you have your long coil of wire, and then obviously you want to just cut that tail off as well. And then we have the coil ready for the next piece. Now for the next part that we're going to be doing another coil, and we're going to be using the same rod that we just used. Now the difference is we're going to need another piece of wire now, and in this case I'm then using my 1mm wire because we need this as the structure of the piece. And what you need to cut off is a length of about 50 centimeters, should be fine. So cut that off. Then we need to attach this 1mm wire to the rod. We just do that the exact same way as we did it with the other wire. So just around up here by the handle a few times, like so. And then place the rod in the gizmo, and then we just want to do a couple of coils just with this wire before we bring in the coil we already made. So we made them few coils with a 1mm wire just to get it started, and then what we need to do is feed the coil we did previously with the green wire with the 0.5mm wire. We need to feed that onto the 1mm wire and then start incorporating that into the coil. So to do that, what you do is at the bottom you hold on to your 1mm wire with your hand, and then you kind of push up this coil that you've already made. You fed onto the 1mm wire, you push that upward so the end sits right here. And then what you're going to do is when you continue coiling, that's going to get incorporated into your coil and then turn into this. And you want to keep pushing it upward and make sure your coils lie right next to each other. And then you'll get this effect, a coil within a coil, like so. That's the end of it. So we just want to do a couple more coils with the 1mm wire alone just to finish off the end securely, like so. And then we now have the coil done. We can take it off, and again take it off at this end as well, and then you want to just take it completely off the rod. So you can undo this, or you can just cut it off and then feed it off of the rod. And then you obviously want to go in with your cutters and just cut off this excess wire as well, the tail that we have left, like so. And then here we have our finished coil ready to continue embellishing then and turn into the wreath. So we've now finished the coil, and now what we need to do is start shaping it. Before we do that, we have these little ends where it's just the 1mm wire that we coiled. I just want to get rid of them so they don't kind of fill in extra space than what we need to. So just go in with your wire cutters or your flush cutters, whatever you have, and cut them off on both ends. So we now have the ends clear of our wire. And then what we need to do is cut off another piece of a 1mm wire, because this is now going to be running through the center of the double coil that you've made. And this is just about 30 centimeters or so, it doesn't need to be that long. And then we want to feed our coil onto that 1mm wire, like so, and it fits nicely as you can see. And now we need to start shaping this into the round wreath shape. So you can either do this by hand, just gently start bending it, or if you have something of a round shape, you can just bend it around that. And I'm just going to take like tip of my ring mandrel here to help me, but anything you have will work. And just start bending it to give it that round shape till the ends cross over here on the back side. Until the ends meet up to the bare wire, the 1mm wire, cross over each other like this. So this is roughly something like this that we need. And then we obviously need to secure it in place. You can just adjust it a little bit if you need to, the shape, until you're completely happy with it. Something like this. And then to secure the two ends in place, we need to wrap our wire around each other. And I'm just going to get out some chain nose pliers or flat nose pliers, whichever. And on one of the ends, I'm going to grab around the 1mm wire that's running through the double coil, and then bend that upward, like so. So we get an angle like this. And then we're going to take the other one, just get the whole thing into position so you're happy with how it sits. And then the wire from the other side, we're going to wrap around that first wire that we kinked up at an angle. And just hold it in place while you're doing this. And just wrap it around a couple of times. So it's basically a bit like a wrap loop. Just about 2 or 3 times. And then we're now secured in place. It's not going to move anywhere. So I'm going to cut off this excess tail on this wire that we wrapped with. Like so. And I'm just going to squeeze the end down with my chain nose pliers to make sure it's not sticking out so it won't catch or scratch on anything. Like that. Run your fingers over it just to check. Like so. And then I want to start making the loop at the top, and then we can start embellishing the piece. And then to make the loop at the top, to be able to use that to attach to whatever earring findings you're using, I'm going to grab my chain nose pliers again and go in from the side like this, a little bit up so you have a bit of space of just the bare 1mm wire, and then again kink that back at a bit of an angle. And then what I'm going to do is, you can get out some round nose pliers if you just have them, or you can use something like this. These are some bail making pliers, 6-step bail making pliers, and it's just so you can make sure that the loops on both your earrings are going to end up being the exact same size. So I know that on this one I used the second smallest one to make the loop. I'm going to use that again to make sure I get the same size loop. So bend that around, or if you're using your round nose pliers, just try and get about the same place on your pliers to get the same size loop. So bend that around your pliers, whatever you're using, so you get a loop like this. So all the way around you get this circle. And then what we want is to make a wrap loop with this as well. So I'm just going to put these aside, grab my chain nose pliers again. I prefer to then hold on to the loop with my chain nose pliers like this, because then that holds the shape on this and holds everything nice and securely. And then just wrap this below the loop to basically fill in that space that we left until there's no more space left. Like that. Get your wire cutters or flush cutters again. Cut off the excess as close as you can get, and then again use your chain nose pliers to squeeze down that end so there's nothing there that's sticking out. Like so. And there we basically have the basic shape of your wreath finished, and we've made a loop as well that's ready to then attach to an earring finding. And then now for the embellishment on the wreath, is I'm going to get another length of my green wire that I used for the original coil, so the colour of the wreath, and the length of this is about 60 centimeters long. So what we need to do is, towards the end of that, you want to attach this onto the wreath to the very top where you made your wraps and your loop is. Just attach it nicely so it's nice and secure and stays in place. And if you need to, you can just use some pliers to get in there, because they can sometimes be a little bit hard to reach with your fingers. Like so. And we can just cut off the excess with that tail at the end. So now we need to use this wire that we just attached to go all the way around the wreath, adding in our embellishment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the place where my original green coil here starts, and then go in between there, and then start following the coil all the way around, and then wrap it through the middle and just follow that coil. So like basically the line in between the coil all the way around. I'm going to follow that to then embellish, and then along the way I'm going to pop in some little seed beads, and the ones I'm using are just some regular little small seed beads of some sort. You can use whatever you have, and these are just a red one because obviously Christmas colours. So I'm going to use them, grab one at a time. So when you reach a place, when you've been wrapping, where you want to add a bit of embellishment, put it onto your wire, let it drop down to here, and then wherever you want it to sit, let it drop there and then keep hold of it. So put your finger over it and then keep wrapping your wire in that well, pretty much, in between your coils, like so, and then that will sit there. So wrapping through the middle, and however you want to place these is really up to you. I kind of like to do it so it looks a bit random, nicely evenly spaced throughout. So this is roughly in the middle of it. I've now moved down a bit. I'm going to add in another one. Let it drop all the way down. And I want this to sit a little bit more on the outside, so out here. And just place your finger on it and then keep wrapping. Like so. And the third one. Onto your wire, and I want this to be more towards the inside, and you just keep going like this basically throughout the whole thing, following the path. So keep doing this until you reach the other side. So I've now moved all the way around and I've reached this other end with my wire, adding all my embellishment all the way, and then I've just reached the point where my coil ends as well. So all I'm going to do is, we need to secure this end off now, so we can cut off all excess ends. So I'm just going to wrap it around through the center again, and then through the top bit here, just like we did in the beginning to fasten it. It's just to secure it all in place. So just do that a couple of times, and it'll just kind of blend in anyway. Because obviously we're using the same colour as the wreath itself. And then when you feel like it's nice and secure, go in and cut off the excess of the tails, like so, and then the other one. You can always just wrap it around as well, the top one more time, once or twice if you feel like, just to give that extra security. And then cut it off, like so. And then just double check with your chain nose pliers that your ends are nicely tucked in, like in here in the middle, so none of them are sticking out or anything. and can catch or scratch on anything. Like so. Run your finger over it if you're happy. And then that's your embellishment. And then that's almost your finished earring done. So the last thing I just want to do is add a little bow to the top. Just first of all because it makes it extra Christmassy, a bit more decoration. But also that'll basically cover up the coils at the top here. So it has two purposes. So I'm just going to loop, this is just the 1mm satin cord that I'm using in red. Loop it around, then the wraps we did with the 1mm wire, and then tie a regular overhand knot so the knot ends up sitting on those wraps when you tighten it, like so. And then I just do a regular bow. It's nice and simple. Tighten that, and then obviously you can just adjust it. Until you're completely happy with the size of the bow and how it sits and that. To be a bit smaller. So just adjust until you're happy. Roughly like this. It's getting there. And then what I would just do is dab a little bit of glue onto that knot or onto the middle of the bow just to secure everything in place. Because obviously as well, if it's an earring and that you're using it for, it's going to be getting movement, so you don't want the bow to come undone. So just a little bit of glue in there, and then cut off the excess length of your cord down to the length that you want it to be. So you then tied off your bow and put a bit of glue on, just so it's nice and durable for wear that you're going to be doing. And then using the loop at the top that we already made, you just attach whatever earring findings that you want to make using a jump ring. Like that. I'm just going to attach it to them. And then obviously you want to make two of these, so you have a set if you're using them as earrings, like these. So that's your finished Christmas wreath earrings now in wire. So I really hope that you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this micro macrame snowflake. And this is what it looks like. So you're using some fine cord or thread, then I'm adding some beads to it as well to give it extra embellishment and extra detail. And this one I've just added to a chain to wear it as a pendant, as a necklace, but you could also just quite easily make these and use them as decorations. So if you want to learn how to make that,